Hello, welcome to Odds on Premier League Match Day 24. After seeing the Champions League, great success for the Premier League teams. 5 in the top 8 and Newcastle very close and getting a draw in the Champions League pitch and also getting slightly exciting this Premier League, Tom, seeing Arsenal dropping points and seeing this new Man United.
Yeah, we might all of a sudden have a potential title race. One more loss for Arsenal in the next couple of weeks gets it right back in the mix. Then we might have a race for European football. It's probably going to be 5, which means top 8 get Europe. And whisper it gently, but maybe not this week, but maybe in a few weeks, West Ham might put up a bit more of a fight, and there could be a relegation battle on too. So from the season looking totally dead, we might have lots to talk about for the next few weeks.
Trust Paco Gémez. Paco Gémez is the answer to all of our prayers. Come to Real Madrid. Paco Gémez, we want you there as well. All right, guys, tell me what you think about this title race. Is there a title race? Perhaps we see Arsenal dropping points at Elland Road. This is a tricky game, and of course, we have a race for the top 4, top 5 now. Liverpool are 6 in the standings. So let me know in the comments what you think. Tom, let's go on now with the show. Well, the first game, Tom, is an interesting Brighton-Everton because these two teams are in the middle of the table. They are not going to Europe. They are not going to get relegated. They are going to stay one season more. In the Premier League, this is the classic draw that we like, but the bookies place Brighton, so favorites despite the defeat in Fulham, despite the draw with Bournemouth, and even if Everton beat Aston Villa in the last away game.
Yeah, it does sort of look like a draw. I do agree. I don't think it's going to scream draw to me, but I do see a draw as a possible outcome because both teams have had some good moments this season. I think that the form of 𝗵𝗲𝗄 for Everton has been a real boost in recent weeks. I think for Brighton, there's been some bright moments, usually when Danny Welbeck has played or, well, that's about it really, frankly, or Georginio 𝗀𝗏 scored a late goal. But I think these are two teams here that need two things. Number one is some luck with injuries. The loss of Jack Grealish in recent weeks, loads of other players have been missing for Everton as well. Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall was the best player on the field for them for so much of the campaign, and he's got injured. And for Brighton, what Brighton need is a couple of summers where they don't sell all their best players. And if they could do maybe a 2 or 3 year build where they can start saying no to clubs, maybe they sign players now and they don't say, we'll sell you in 2 years, we'll sell you in 5 years. If that started being more of a thing that Brighton did, I can see them building for the future. The trouble is, I think they're so designed as a feeder club for more or less Chelsea. But for anyone, really, who's got the money, they're always going to have trouble changing and transitioning from A to B. But they have a very good manager in Fabian Һ𝗏𝗏. They're incredibly well organised. They're tough to beat. They're very good in the mid-block when they haven't got the ball. They battle for every ball. The fitness of people like 𝗏𝗏𝗏 and Ayari, who's getting better and better as the weeks go on. Plus, I think the signing of Pascal Gross coming back from Borussia Dortmund was very astute because they did lack a little bit of guile, creativity, just that guy who can slow the game down. He also takes a great corner and a great free kick. So bringing him back was a very wise move for Brighton for the second half of this season. Home form been pretty patchy in recent weeks. A 2-0 win against Burnley, a draw against Bournemouth. That again puts this right in the mix. It's going to be a very tight game. And in terms of Everton, I do think that James Garner's been fantastic this season in central midfield. He hasn't found a regular partner alongside him that can cover for his deficiencies. 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, short, had some good moments. Timo Rebbedem, I think, is injured right now, had some good moments. So I do think that there was an issue there with Everton in terms of who the other central midfielder is. But look, Barry scoring goals, that's made a big difference. And I think they need a bit more from Ndiaye now he's back from AFCON, and a lot more from Dwight McNeil. We haven't seen anything really from Dwight McNeil. We know he has potential. We know he can do more. So I'd take the Brighton win at one. I'm just going to cough now. I'll take the Brighton win at 1.85, now up to 1.93 since I looked at this. As ever with Brighton, look at their last 5 games. Only the Burnley game wasn't both teams to score. So 4 of the last 5 have been BTTS. Same for Everton. Only one of the last 5 has not been BTTS. So look for both teams to score I would go for Brighton. Then if you're looking for an individual here, look at Barry's recent goal-scoring form up front for Everton. 5 goals now in the Premier League this season. It's goal against Leeds, goal against Villa, goal against Brentford. That's 3 in his last 5. That's pretty impressive at 4.2 for any time. That's a really, really good bet, I think. And if you are going draw, there's 2 outcomes, 0-0 or 1-1. Bundle them together at 4.5.
Well, Brighton is the 3rd best team in both teams to score in the league, 70% of the games with BTTS. Smart bet is under 3.5 goals for this one. And Konats is telling us no Grealish. Go for Brighton. And next one, much more interesting at Elland Road, Leeds. Arsenal, tough game this one for Arsenal. Leeds only 1 defeat in the last 10 Premier League games, drew with Everton and beat Fulham in the last 2. And remember, for instance, they didn't lose with Liverpool or Man United. And we have this Arsenal absolutely perfect in the Champions League, even with 𝐿𝐴𝐵𝗿𝗄 scoring. And these are good news. But in the Premier League, 3 winless games. Let's see if the Man United game was an accident, Tom, but for sure, they are lacking something up front. They can only score from set pieces. They need to improve this trio up front.
Yeah, look, I think that's absolutely right. The scoring from corners is great, and it's really essential when you really need it. But what's happened this season for Arsenal to cast doubt on what should be a procession to the title is that no forward has played well consistently. Bukayo Saka is not delivering this season on goals or assists. It's the same with Trossard and Martinelli, and we've discussed previously the issues that Victor Gyökeres has had. 𝐜𝐵𝗵𝐺 just back from injury. You can't really blame him too much. Noni Madueke is fine, but where are the numbers in the Premier League? Where are the goals that we need from someone in this Arsenal team? So I think if you were in this Arsenal team or you were Mikel Arteta, you might be like, thank you to the defence. You've done a fantastic job. Thank you to the goalkeeper. You've done a fantastic job. Thank you to the midfielders. You've done a fantastic job. Oh, hello, attackers. Thanks for coming. And that's the issue. And maybe Kai Havertz coming back in. He scored at least 1, I think, against Kairat Almaty. Frankly, I switched it off after his goal. But it was a great goal, curling it in the top corner. And I think he's their best forward from the group that is there. And him coming back to fitness will make a difference to them if he can see through the rest of this season, because he is their best forward and works best in the Arsenal system. If not him, it's probably Marino. And then there's a big gap to Gyökeres. And then who knows about Jesus because of how injured he's been. So that's the only issue with Arsenal. Who is going to score the goals if it's not from a corner? Of course, the trouble is they've scored so many corners this season. How much of a difference does that make? In terms of Leeds, this run of form, I think it's the most impressive run of form from a team I've seen in the Premier League for years. It's more impressive than Arsenal, more impressive than Villa this campaign, because no one saw it coming. There's no potential in this group. If you went back to the start of November and said, well, this group was it 11 now without defeat? Nobody would have said it. Nobody watching, me and you, anyone, no one would have seen it coming. 2-0 down against Man City a few weeks ago. Daniel Farke goes back to the 3 at the back that worked for him in the Championship, and they have just ground out results. Not many wins. That's really worth saying here. They are not winning many games, and that might hurt them in the end, but they've become very, very tough to beat with the 3 at the back, 2 defensive midfielders, ultra low block at times, hitting on the counter. Load of guys are coming to unexpected form, specifically Dominic Calvert-Lewin, top scorer with 9, but also Brendan Aronson and 1 or 2 others. They're a blunt team. They're a solid team. They're a grafting team, and there's belief in this team, and that has made a massive, massive difference. But is there the quality if West Ham can put some wins together? Is there the quality if Nottingham Forest continue to improve? I don't know. I would still favour Leeds to stay up over West Ham massively. I'd make it an 80-20 split in Leeds' favour, but I do think West Ham are more capable of going on a run than Leeds are. So, look, we'll see. In terms of this game, it's going to be tight. It's going to be tight because every Leeds game is tight. 1-1, 1-0, 1-1. Even when they lose, it's 4-3. It's normally by 1 goal. The odd goal in 3 has been a common scoreline for both of these teams. For Arsenal, 2-3 loss, 0-0s, 2-3 loss, 1-0 wins, 2-1 wins. Exactly 1 goal. Screams it. So, Arsenal win, 1.57. Take that up front. Both teams conceding, both teams scoring. That screams both teams to score. Arsenal, both teams to score, 3.5. Then it's going to be tight. Look for the exact market. Arsenal by exactly 1 goal is 3.5. Don't discount the draw. I really would not discount a 1-1 draw here between these 2 teams. Draw on its own is quite tasty. 0-0 and 1-1 together is 5. So don't discount it.
Under 2.5 goals could be a good option, as 𝐿𝐿𝐴 is telling us, since neither of these teams have a lot of goals in them. Arsenal and over for TCP, the opposite, actually. And first half draw could be a good option. 𝐿𝐿𝐴 is telling us. I really like that one. As well, this should be a tough one for Arsenal. Next one is Wolves Bournemouth. Here we have the away team as a favorite. 10 points now away from the bottom 3, so they are gonna be completely safe after beating Liverpool and Tottenham in the last 2 home games. Really, really important for this Bournemouth selling their best players. Let's see if they are able to beat Wolves, a team that has improved a lot in recent weeks. Tom, perhaps we see goals here, could be a good option.
Yeah, I think both teams will score in this game, definitely. I think that there'll be a freedom for both teams in lots of ways for the 2 reasons you've laid out quite nicely, in that the Wolverhampton Wanderers, they are relegated. They are not going to make it. They'd have to win every single game between now and the end of the season, even with a run of really good form. That just isn't going to happen. So it's a shame for them that they've found a way to turn it around so late, but they just cut themselves so far adrift. It's not going to be possible. But they've been scoring goals. Mane has looked really good. Hwang has looked really alert in recent games. The midfield with 3 in there has given them a bit more energy. And with 5 at the back, they've covered for each other's deficiencies. Look, it's still a championship squad with not a great deal of quality, but I think that the acceptance of relegation has moved them into a quite positive space in a lot of ways, and their desire not to be humiliated by this season. I think Rob Edwards has sold them on that message, and I think we've seen that in recent performances, even against Man City last week at 2-0 down. I know City kind of shut up shop, but as we sort of thought they might, they got on top and they created chances, and the keeper made some saves, and City had to defend that lead, and that is not something that was happening a few weeks previous. So you got to commend them for that. I mean, all told, it's going to be a pitiful season, but at the very least, this particular moment isn't absolutely awful. In terms of Bournemouth, look, Antonio Iraola is going to get a really big club in the summer. He is going to get a really big club if he wants it, because what he's been able to do with this squad is incredible, frankly. They had a decent amount of quality last season, players that we speak about a lot that have left, 𝐿𝐴 and 𝗀𝐿𝐴 and several others. They're not there now. I look at this team on paper and I think, what is this? Who are these players? How good are they? Like Evanilson, he's not a particularly top Premier League goal scorer. Junior 𝗀𝗻's played well this season. 7 goals is really impressive, but he's a very young player. So that's a lot to do with the coaching as well. Even like 𝗀𝗏𝗏, who's just come in, scoring that late winner or late leveler against Liverpool. He scored the winner, right? Like, I just think that this team are so much better than the sum of their parts. And that's due to coaching and organisation, belief in the manager. And plus, not only have they sold a bunch of players, it's a huge injury list now, with 𝐿𝐴 and Tavernier and Adams and several others being unavailable to them. So to go on this run, which includes a win against Liverpool, includes the win against Tottenham, which was 𝐸menyo inspired, the draw at Newcastle, the draw at Brighton, I just think they're a fantastically well-coached team. And with that being said, and with the storyline of the season as it is, you couldn't go for a Wolves win. So take Bournemouth at a pretty healthy 2.34. That'll be their 3rd win in 4 games in the Premier League. Both teams to score, I think it screams it. That's happened in all 5 of Bournemouth's last 5 in all competitions, and I think Wolves are more than capable of scoring a goal, as we've seen against the likes of Everton and West Ham recently. So both teams to score, Bournemouth win is a really healthy 4, and this screams over to me. This should be a lot of fun. Bournemouth will win it. So many away games when Bournemouth have got something have been them scoring at least 2 goals. I expect that again this weekend. Bournemouth will win over 2.5 in the match is 3.25. I might even look higher than that if I'm feeling brave.
Well, and then some of the players that they left, they've been absolutely rubbish, like Kerkez or Heisen. So kudos to the manager. Indeed, Bournemouth X2 and over 1.5 goals just to be safe. Okay, let's go here for Bournemouth or both teams to score. Happy days at Stamford Bridge. Chelsea West Ham is the next game. New manager bounce, we can say, after the massive win in Napoli, with João Pedro scoring 2 great goals, especially the first one. Is 4 consecutive wins for Rossinior, including Palace in the last away game in the Premier League, and also I wouldn't say happy days, but at least hopeful days, we can say, in East London with back-to-back wins in the Premier League, plus the FA Cup one. Burnley away is next. This is going to be difficult for West Ham, Tom, but if they win at Turf Moor, there is hope, of course, for this West Ham.
Yeah, and I think with West Ham as well, which we'll do in a second, I think what they need is to win games against big teams. Forest are above them because not only that despicable refereeing performance in the West Ham Forest game, but also because they went to Anfield and won. And they've got to do something like that, West Ham. That's how far behind they are. So maybe this is a game they could potentially target because, look, Chelsea haven't been particularly convincing under 𝐿𝐴𝐴𝐴. How could they in just a few short weeks? I thought they shouldn't have got the win over Brentford. The Paphos win was tough to watch. The victory over Palace, they've met Palace at a really good time. To be fair, I was impressed by that. And last night against Napoli, Napoli have got so many players missing. So it was a good chance for them to face Napoli. And Napoli aren't in the top 24 in the Champions League for a reason. And they're struggling in Serie A as well. So look, there's some caveats there in terms of the quality of opposition. And if they beat West Ham the weekend, which I probably expect them to do, there'll be some further caveats because West Ham are struggling so much in the macro of the season. Team selection is going to be interesting. Enzo Maresca rotated a lot this season on the advice of the medical staff. We understand. Will we see Caicedo again? Will we see Enzo Fernandez again? Will there be rotation on the wings? Will it be 𝗛𝗲𝗿𝗲 or João Pedro? And at centre-half as well. Fofana played in midweek, so one assumes that he won't play at the weekend, which makes it a 𝗛𝗲𝗿𝗲 centre-half pairing, probably. Where does Reece James play? So you never quite know with Chelsea. I'd expect several changes, lots of rotations. They have the biggest squad in the Western world, which means they're able to do that. The trouble is, I'm not sure the second string is as good as the first string. And we're constantly discussing how good the first string actually is for the money spent. So, look, I'd still make Chelsea massive favourites to win this game. If they are on it and they play well, they will win. But at home this season, a moment of caution, 11 victories, 5 wins, 3 draws and 3 defeats is a bottom half home record. So, there is a moment of caution there. And in terms of West Ham, 2 wins away from home this season. Nuno, I think, is generally set up well to be an away manager. The trouble with West Ham is the defenders aren't up to it. And again, this transfer window has been funny for West Ham. And they've sold players and sold players and sold players. And I don't think that's a panic thing. I think Nuno has come in and doesn't rate anybody. And they've let as many people go as he possibly can. The Paqueta thing is the exception that proves the rule. But Paqueta has basically gone on strike to force a move to Brazil. And he wasn't man enough to stay for the relegation battle and couldn't wait 4 months to go back. And so, bad luck to him and all that. And I'm glad he's gone. And I think West Ham, without him, they're a hard-working team now, which they have not been this season. They couldn't run before Tati Castellanos and Pablo came in. These two guys are not technically amazing. I don't think they're really top Premier League players, but you saw it against Sunderland last week. They are going to work and work and work and work. And that was missing from West Ham when Callum Wilson and 𝗏𝗏 and whomever else, Paqueta, was there. So that's been an improvement. 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 has played really well recently. You've got to give him credit for that. I think he'll get a good move when they go down in the summer, which he wasn't going to get start of last season because he'd been so awful before that. Matheus Fernandes and 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 works in central midfield. So look, I think West Ham have a puncher's chance here. I don't think they did have a chance a few weeks ago. I think they do actually have a puncher's chance now from what we've seen. And you mentioned to us before about Paco Gémez, who's come in. I loved watching him and Nuno rowing on the sideline during the Sunderland game because Nuno needs to be told at times that his ideas are bad. And maybe if Paco Gémez was in earlier on, some of the bad performances and weird team selections wouldn't have happened. So, look, I don't think this is the game that keeps West Ham up, but I do think there will be games in the near future where they've got to win unexpectedly. And if they win this and win against Burnley, that's a huge if. If they do, they could be out of the relegation zone next week. They've got to pick up a big win against someone. Maybe it could be here. Look, take the Chelsea win at 1.58. I think both teams have leaky defences. West Ham have the worst defence in the league, and Chelsea concede in most games. Chelsea in both teams to score brings you near W money at 2.88. Then look at the West Ham win market. If you are going to pick up an upset bet this weekend, Chelsea beating Napoli on Wednesday, really tough 3-2 victory, and then late Saturday they've got to play again. So at 6.43, it might be worth a punt on a West Ham win. Teams like Sunderland have gone to Chelsea and won this season. Brentford could have got something. If West Ham do win, it'll be a both teams to score scenario. That's a really healthy 8.5. And then look for goals in this game. Chelsea win over 3.5 goals is 3.25. In terms of individuals, look at Crescencio Somerville. 3 and 3 for him. So why not 4 and 4?
Is Tom counting on his West Ham again? I think this is a yes.
Well, I did say quite clearly, go for Chelsea is the top bet, but I just think West Ham have looked good last couple of weeks. I try and give you some upsets. I try and give you some daring bets, folks. Okay, I do my best.
All right. Well, 8.5 indeed is daring. West Ham, I'm counting on you. We have also Man Spaghetti with backing your West Ham. It's a funny couple, this Paco Gémez Nuno, because Paco Gémez used to be a really offensive manager, both in the pitch and also in the press conference. He was very aggressive with the journalists, especially when he was in Mexico, but now they are pairing up together with Nuno Espiritu Santo. Let's see if they can save West Ham. And next we have Liverpool, Newcastle. This is a great game. Perhaps also this is a game for an upset and take the Newcastle odds, although, of course, we always have to be careful when Newcastle are playing away from home, but they are coming from a great draw in Paris, the only Premier League team without being in the top 8, but still, I think praise to Newcastle. They are doing also a really good Champions League campaign. Not in the Premier League. It's going to be tough for them to qualify next season for the European competitions. And let's see with Liverpool, because they've been really, really bad in the Premier League. No wins in the last 5. In Europe is another thing. And also, Tom, what the hell was Van Dijk thinking in Bournemouth? The 2 goals actually was his fault, but then he was looking for someone to blame and he couldn't find anyone near him. And it's like, okay, I might take the blame on the first goal.
Well, look, I think the issues for Liverpool go back to the summer when they didn't get 𝗏𝗏𝐻𝐿 when they should have done, and then they left it all on the line for 𝗏𝗏𝐻𝐿, and he now plays for Man City. And I'm just thinking about, with all due respect to Newcastle, would 𝗏𝗏𝐻𝐿 not have gone to Liverpool? I could name you 10 centre-halves who I think are good, that they could have sought out to buy in the summer and didn't do it. And 𝐿𝐿𝐻's been awful. Gomez always injured. Leone got injured immediately, but he was, 18? Was he going to play every game? I don't think so. And Van Dijk is aging. And you take away Alexander-Arnold from that as well. This was a slow-moving car crash that I think most people could see. Arne Slot couldn't see it. The hierarchy couldn't see it. And he brought a bunch of players in where he's got to try and find a formation for them. And maybe he has in the 4-2-2-2 formation. Didn't work against Bournemouth last week, though, I don't think. And I don't think we learned anything from the game against Qarabağ on Wednesday. Mainly because I didn't watch it, but also, of course, they were going to win that game. I don't think a squad should of this caliber should ever lose to Qarabağ, and they go on to win for 6. So, who knows? But I think not investing in the defence was a problem. Transfer window still open as we record this, and they haven't fixed that issue, which is a bit odd to me. Maybe suggests they've given up on Arne Slot, maybe. Given up on this squad, given up on this season. The club think they can finish top 5, which should be Champions League, and are going to give another manager the chance to rebuild the defence. I mean, that's just my theory at the moment. We'll see how that plays out. But, of course, the injuries are racking up now. 𝐿𝐻 currently still unavailable for personal reasons. No Gomez, no Bradley. Leone we've mentioned. Frimpong's now out. And we know about Isak, but kind of irrelevant Alexander Isak this season. An awful, awful signing that's turned out to be. Maybe it will come good in the long run, but in the short term, worst signing of the summer, no doubt about it for me. So, look, intrigued to see where Salah plays, intrigued to see how the formation continues. Salah's done nothing really since coming back, and defensively they've looked weak. Home form been pretty patchy this season as well, but the Newcastle away form, as we've discussed already, has been woeful this season. Just 2 away wins all campaign. Underperforming away from home massively, struggling to win, and hopefully for them, Joe Linton's going to be fit because we know Bruno 𝗏𝗏𝐻𝐿 is unlikely to start in this game. Without that midfield 3, they have struggled. They haven't won a Premier League game without Bruno 𝗏𝗏𝐻𝐿 in it since his arrival at the club in winter 22. So no Bruno, no victory, and that's a pretty solid rule for Newcastle. So if you look at the team sheet and you see no Bruno, you bet on the Liverpool win. And from what I hear, it's unlikely that he's going to be playing in this game, certainly from the start. And so that means you have to go for me, Liverpool victory. Look, don't discount the draw. I think that's the first thing I would say here, with both teams really struggling to get over the line in games. Liverpool, Burnley in recent weeks. Wolves against Newcastle. Paris Saint-Germain, Newcastle last night. I wouldn't discount the draw at 4.3. As ever with the draw, I always like to bundle them up to cover our bets. So 0-0 and 1-1 is 5.5. Otherwise, look for Liverpool victories. Liverpool winning by exactly 1 goal is 3.75. I think the first goal is going to be absolutely crucial in this game. If they do get it, Don't discount the 1-0, 2-0, 3-0 at 4. 1-0 or 2-0 Liverpool seems likely if they get that first goal. But I think the under here is what I'm looking at. First reasonable bet here is Liverpool, and under 3.5 is 2.88. That's a very conservative bet at just under double your money. If you feel brave, look at under 2.5 there.
Man Spaghetti, be careful. Newcastle will come with pure hate because of the 𝐸 story.
Who?
Long time, well, not long time ago, actually, in the summer. 𝐋𝐿 for TCP. Let's check out what our smart bet tool is telling us for this great game. We have corners is the top bet. And then let's go under 3.5 goals, like Tom Rennie. Indeed, both teams to score. No, so a close game at Anfield. Good game, this one, the 𝐸 derby, Liverpool, Newcastle. For Sunday, early kickoff. Well, actually, no, at the same time, we have Aston Villa, Brentford. Aston Villa now 4 points away from Arsenal after beating Newcastle. Actually, and remember, they lost the last game at Villa Park. It was a big surprise against Everton. Brentford, they were overperforming, and they lost the last 2 games against Forest and Chelsea, Tom.
Yeah, and players out for both teams. Massive lift of players that are potentially going to be missing for this game. And Villa have got to play again on Thursday night before we record this, so I don't know how they've got on there. But the squad is threadbare, and that's a huge issue for Villa. Tielemans, Kamara, McGinn, so crucial to everything Villa are doing. And there's not a deep squad here. I know they've signed Tammy Abraham back this week from Besiktas, but they need more. They need 3 or 4 more players. Like, I thought with Villa being this close to winning the Premier League, there might be a big splash here. And they might really risk it all to win the Premier League this season. Arsenal are catchable. They're a very catchable leader for a team that goes on a run, pick up a couple of injuries, and they just haven't sufficiently, to this moment, to my mind, built a Premier League winning team. Maybe that will change in the next couple of days. Maybe it'll depend on how this weekend goes with a couple of days to go until Monday's deadline. But short of players at the moment, that could potentially be a problem for Aston Villa. Teams are treating them like potential title champions and challengers, and that's been an issue for Aston Villa. The Forest game recently, the Palace game recently, the Spurs game recently to a degree. And they are maybe more set for away games than they are home games. That could be a problem as well. But they have goal-scoring threat. Buendia has been fantastic. Watkins been really good. And now we can change with Tammy. Maybe that will make a difference for them in terms of Watkins only having 70 minutes of legs in him for most games. In terms of Brentford, worst performance of last weekend by any team for me against Nottingham Forest. They were awful in that game. I wonder whether they've been found out at long last. It should have happened earlier for this really blunt team. Long throws in the box and just chaos merchants lumping it in the penalty area. You should be able to work your way through that. And don't play a high line against Brentford, and they're basically buggered. And that's what we saw. Forest were very deep last week and dealt with the long throw well, and that was that. They scored a couple of goals, second on the break, and closed the game off quite nicely, Forest, I thought. So a lot of issues there. Plus, they lost 𝗵𝗻𝐻 in the game, who's their only real proper creative force who can find a pass. Thiago struggled with no space in behind. Look, Brentford have had a good season, but they're not going to finish in the European places. There isn't a great deal of money to reinvest. And I think next season, as they probably should have done this season, they'll struggle down the bottom of the Premier League table. And I think with Thiago's goal-scoring return of 16, he's going to go in the summer because people will see 16 Premier League goals and think, yeah, I'll have a bit of that. And why not? There'll be teams that can pay him significantly more money. So in terms of this game, with Brentford's really poor run of form in the last couple of weeks, you've got to go for the Villa win at 2. That's actually quite reasonable considering Aston Villa's home form this season has been close to spectacular. It's 8 victories and 2 defeats across the campaign, 1 draw. I don't see Brentford scoring in this game. I think Villa, if they score the first, will shut this game down quite nicely. Villa win to 0, 3.5, quite like that. And the couple of goal scorers for Villa, I'd say it's Buendia or Watkins. I'd take Watkins anytime.
Aston Villa to win, also 𝐿𝐴, no midfield, but go for Villa. Brentford are poor away from home. Indeed, they were poor, although they went into a run. Recently, 3 wins and 8 defeats for Brentford away from home. First half result, Aston Villa is our smart bet option for this game, 2.5. Not bad at all. And then we have to talk About Man United playing at Old Trafford against Fulham, now 4th in the standings. This is a new Man United. Who would have thought that putting the players in the right place, Tom, would work, and dropping the strange formation that Amorim was using, back-to-back wins against Arsenal and City. Let's see now if they don't screw it against Fulham, because this is also very Man United thing, doing a great game against a top team and then losing at home against mid-table teams. Also Fulham, by the way, in good form. One defeat only in the last 7 games.
Yeah, look, and I think that's moved Fulham out of any relegation conversation where they were 7 games ago. So just when they needed it, they went on a run of wins, which they've done a lot since their return to the Premier League. I mean, look, on Man United, it's a tricky one, because you basically got to throw the entire season out until 2 weeks ago, because what that Wally was doing with these players, I'll never understand it. I've never seen anything like it. I don't know what he was doing. He couldn't read the room. He couldn't read a game. And I just don't understand what he was doing. I can't believe that Ruben Amorim would get another job at the top level. I really can't. But anyway, that's for another time. I think that Martinez and Maguire have looked fantastic in central defence. They're obviously a really good pairing. Them both being fit as well, which they weren't to the back end of Amorim's time, as you know, that makes a difference too, having the players available. The bombing out of 𝗵𝗵𝗄 never made sense, and he's looked fantastic alongside Casemiro in the last couple of games, being the legs of Casemiro that have long since gone. But for 45 minutes, Casemiro can still lump everyone up in the air, which we saw against Arsenal last week. And get Bruno Fernandes forward. I mean, for goodness sake, they wasted a year of Bruno Fernandes in his own half. Why were you doing this? Like, he's an exceptional attacking midfielder, as he's shown us so many times, yet he was playing so deep in games. The only sad bit for them is that 𝗀𝗲𝗄 is out injured, but it does mean they can bring in £60 million 𝐿𝐿𝐴𝐻𝐿𝐿. I mean, look, they still spend money, Man United. This is why we judge them on a different level to a lot of people, because they spend gargantuan money on players, even when they're useless. And they spent 200, 300 million in the summer on players, and he was playing him in all sorts of random positions. So 𝗵𝗄𝗄 and 𝐿𝐭𝐴𝐻𝐿 and Bruno Fernandes are a fantastic 3. You throw Ahmad into that group as well. The midfield we mentioned, everything's set up here. If Man United can build up a head of steam, it gets space in behind, they will win this game. I think that Marco Silva and Fulham are a wily team. They're a wise team with a wise manager who are more than capable of going away from home and just killing a game stone dead and nicking a goal late on. I'm thinking about the West Ham game specifically, but they've done it in plenty of games this season where they just go away from home and shut that thing down until the chance arises to try and nick something at the end. Maybe the Palace game a few weeks ago is a kind of similar story to that, which finished 1-1. So they will low block. They will look to counter. Raul Jimenez, always a threat in behind. Kevin and Bob on the wings, which is funny. Potentially could have a say in this game. Harry Wilson and 𝐿𝐴𝐧𝐧𝐞𝐜 also potential options for them. So loads of great pace, loads of great alternatives. If the wingers aren't doing it, someone else can come in. And I think, you know, 𝗻𝗻𝗄 coming back in as their best player makes a big difference too. So I think it'll be reasonably tight, this. And I think the first goal is going to be absolutely pivotal. I think all results are possible. I would take Man United only because Fulham don't have a great deal to play for, whereas Man United have a positive wind in their sails, 1.63, not great. So then you look at how this game is going to be won, and I think it'll be close. It's going to be 2-1 either way, potentially 1-0 Man United, exactly 1 goal, 3.75 and a Man United win. 2-0 Man U is covered by Man United win and exactly 2 goals. That's 4.5. Maybe screams early goal and late goal for Man United here. And then look at these big money signings. And 𝗵𝗄𝗄 anytime, 𝐿𝐴𝐻𝐿 anytime. And it's a Fulham game. So look for Harry Wilson anytime as well. 8 goals for the season. Another spectacular goal for him last weekend.
Man United winning and both teams to score. People are going for this outcome, although our smart bet is going for an upset for the Red Devils, 𝑋2. Double chance for Fulham pays 2.5. Then we have Nottingham Forest, Crystal Palace. Who knows if this is the last game of Oliver Glasner on the bench. Palace going down and down and down is 6 defeats and 2 draws in the last games. Forest 5 points away from West Ham thanks to the win against Brentford. Is 7 points in the last 9 for Nottingham Forest, playing on Thursday. Remember also Europa League. Well, 2 teams, Tom, that could be in danger if West Ham collect points.
Yeah, that's been the big if for a few weeks, right? The West Ham need to go on a run to put anyone in danger. Look, I've always felt Forest would move away from it. I always thought it would be kind of West Ham and Leeds battling for 18th. I say always, so maybe September, October time. Didn't think Palace would be in that mix, which we'll get to. Maybe they will if they can't win a game like this. Look, Forest are so just horrendous to watch, right? But I think Sean Dyche is intentionally, like we've seen him for a long, long time now. He's not interested in entertainment. He's not interested in what your eyes see. Certainly not a manager you want to pay to go and watch. But from the outside, if your job is keep us up, he'll do it. And he's done it in some really impressive performances in recent times. Look, were they good against West Ham to win that game? No. If it wasn't for despicable refereeing decisions, would they have won that game? No. But they did. They went to West Ham and won by 2-1. Brentford last week, did they play particularly well? No. But once they got that first goal, they play the game beautifully. They manage the game beautifully. That's the wisdom of Sean Dyche. He just knows how to win those games. And I was incredibly pleased for 𝗀𝗏𝗏𝗀, who's had a tough time since he was put into that medically induced coma last year. And it was a great solo goal from him to score the second, a pivotal victory for Forest in the season to keep that gap on West Ham had won the previous day. So, look, defensively, they remain very solid with Murillo and Milenkovic. Anderson and Sangare have played within themselves this season, but again, that's all Sean Dyche wants. Gibbs-White's not done enough this season. He got an assist last week for the 𝐬𝐭𝐴 goal, but that makes a farce of the stat because all we did was punt it upfield. So, not sure that should be an assist. 𝐜𝐭𝐴𝐧𝐧𝐞𝐜 not scoring enough goals, but now 𝐬𝐭𝐴 is. They've got good rotation there. Look, Forest have got enough to stay up and Forest have got enough to win this game. I'm intrigued to see how strong or otherwise the team is on Thursday, but we're recording this before that game. In terms of Palace, the roof is caving in. Oliver Glasner is not giving the impression of somebody who wants to be at the club, to your point from earlier. I don't think he gets the sack. I don't think he resigns. Maybe he should if this is the way he feels, but then what Palace do, I don't know. To lose Mark Gay, catastrophic. Should have sold him in the summer if they were going to sell him now. 𝐾𝐿 comes in. He's just not of the same quality. Maybe for a week or two, but that's about it. Adam Wharton suspended for his red card last week. That's a huge issue. So who's going to be in midfield? Will Hughes and Jefferson Lerma? Not too sure about that. And going forward, Brennan Johnson and Ismaila Sarr. I think Brennan Johnson's a really good player in context. A good championship, good relegation struggling sort of player. Spurs was too big, I think, for him, so it could be a good fit. But the manager doesn't play wingers. And Jean-Philippe Mateta is kind of dragging them over the line with his goals this season, but wants to leave as well. So, look, the vibe is bad. Lots of injuries to deal with. Sales that haven't been covered with purchases. They're struggling to attract players. And Palace, look, I just think it'll be West Ham still, frankly. But you could see a scenario where they go on such a bad run. They struggle to 36, 37 points, making the line 40 to stay up, which is doable. But tricky one, this. I'd go for Forest just about a 2.03. I'd follow a very similar pattern to the Brentford game last week. Very low scoring, ugly and unwatchable. I would go Forest win to 0 at 3.25. Forest win under 2.5 goals is 4.33. Only one goal conceded in their last three as we record this. That was the one against Braga. So, look, I think it'll be an ugly game decided by one goal, likely to Forest.
Looking really bad, this Crystal Palace. Indeed, sad watching Palace imploding. Konats is telling us Forest need this first half draw also possible. Forest 1-0 win. Captain Luger is telling us next game. A really good one, Tottenham Man City, because Tottenham are able to beat Man City in the last seasons. Tottenham happier in Europe, getting into the top 8. Yes, they had an easy schedule, but still, you have to win those games, what they are not doing in the Premier League, as we saw against Burnley, 14th in the table, 2 defeats and 3 draws in the last 5 Premier League games. And it's a big question mark, I guess, which Man City are we going to watch, Tom, because they had 2 easy games against Wolves and Galatasaray at home after those really bad defeats with Bodo Glimt and Man United. So perhaps here is another option for an upset, even if Spurs have a really bad record this season at home.
Yeah, look, I think the odds draw you into the upset because Spurs are obviously better playing away from home in terms of, style and specifically away from the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium as well. They're going to be able to low block here. They're going to be able to hit you on the break. Look, the issue with Tottenham is they didn't buy good enough attackers in the summer. That's the issue here. And like Mo Kudus being missing is a problem because I think he was probably the best of the bunch, but They have so many guys that have just not played consistently well. Javi Simons, 𝐿𝐴𝐴𝐻, 𝗀𝗏𝗿𝗲 has been there a little bit longer than that, but just didn't buy well. Didn't buy well for this manager, and this manager is not getting a tune out of any of them. And when they lost James Maddison, they didn't replace him, and they haven't had 𝗀𝐿𝐴𝐻𝐿 all season, who is probably their best player at the moment. Well, he was when he left. I mean, who knows what player comes back, if he ever comes back. It feels like it's been so long with that knee injury. They're talking about maybe next couple of weeks, but got to play yourself back into form. Losing Richarlison is a problem as well. It means Solanke comes in. I'm not sure Solanke is a particularly Thomas Frank player either from his current profile. Maybe he'll change him. I don't know. But he's also got to step up and make the manager play him. It's not all about, is he the right sort of player? Go do something. Prove to me that you are. And so far, Solanke isn't doing that. And defensively too, I think that Mickey van der Ven may well be out for this game, which is a shame for them because I think him and Romero have been offensively their best players. And Kevin Danso is a bit of a drop-off from Van der Ven, who's cut a very unhappy figure this season, as has everyone at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. They just aren't winning home games. Only 2 home wins. Less home wins than West Ham. Same amount of home wins as Burnley this season. But you can't blame 𝗵𝗵 now. You could for a few weeks. You can't blame him now. We're a long way down the road. This manager, these players need to find a way to win home games, and they've just failed and failed and failed to do so multiple times. And at the moment, from what is there, I'm struggling to see a pathway to victory in this game, despite the fact they can play low block and counter-attack football. But if the chance falls to Kolo Muani, we're going to bet on him to score it? I'm not going to. And that's a problem in itself. In terms of Man City, they had to stop the bleeding, right? And stop the bleeding they did with those couple of easy victories. Look, perfect home games, which you mentioned against Gala and against Wolverhampton Wanderers. This is a tougher game, but maybe the confidence is back. Mark Gay can play in this game, which he couldn't in the game in the Champions League. So that means it could be 𝐿𝐴𝐴𝐻𝐿 and Gay. That's pretty good at centre-half. It means that Nunez, if he's well enough, will play on the right. It means that Riley will play on the left. That's pretty much the back line they've had all season, back to solidity. If Rodri and Nico Gonzalez is fit, Gonzalez is currently the better pick of the two. He can come in and make this team tick over again. Bring Reinders in, bring 𝗀𝐿𝐴𝐻𝐿 in, find a way to set up Haaland. Marmoush comes back and scores last week. Look, they ain't going to struggle for long, Man City, right? Eventually, this star-studded lineup of players is going to come good. Guardiola's just got to find the right team and maybe pick it consistently for a few Premier League weeks, and I expect that to probably start here. So 1.73 for the City win. I think you have to take it despite the Tottenham odds. I think it'll be reasonably tight. Exactly 1 goal for City, and they win 3.75. I can see a Spurs goal here because of the recent run for City before this, where they've conceded goals to Bodo Glimt and to Man United. So both teams to score and City win is double your money. And then you've got to look at goal scorers. For Tottenham, look at Romero because of his goal-scoring run. I think he's their top scorer at home this season, certainly in recent weeks, top scorer at 13. You can see him getting forward and scoring a header again as he did against Burnley and did against West Ham. So look at that. In terms of Man City, if they play, look at Reinders, look at 𝗀𝐿𝐴𝐻𝐿 to set him up. That's the best team here. So I would pick out of City's players, Reinders to score.
Spurs have a good record against City. I like both teams to score an over 2.5 goals. Remember, this season they beat them 2-0 in the Etihad, and in the last 9 years is 9 wins and for Tottenham and 10 for Man City with 2 draws. I don't think any other team in the Premier League have such a good record in the head-to-head with Man City under Guardiola. So perhaps it's good to take a look at Tottenham to win. Why not? And be bold a little bit on our bets. We can do a knockout surprises, Tom, in this match day with West Ham, Newcastle, and Tottenham, all 3 to win. This should be a good idea, or at least or at least Asian Handicap 0 could be a good option. David Haaland scoring again is about time indeed. And for Monday, we have Sunderland, Burnley. Sunderland to win is 1.76. Dropping in the table, as we could expect after a great first part of the season, is 1 win in the last 7. Improving. Burnley is not going to be enough to get safe, but, well, they drew with the Spurs, Liverpool, or United recently, which is not bad indeed.
Yeah, look, wins change everything, okay? Wins change everything. If you win 4 games in a row, everything changes in your season. That's what West Ham are trying to do. That's what Burnley need to do. And why not in a game like this? As you mentioned, Sunderland, they're not in free fall. That'd be too offensive, but I do think they are struggling. I do think eventually they have been found out, and that incredible first half of the season was never going to be replicated second half of the season. And you see it quite a lot with teams who have a good first half. They start to think, oh, what are we? What are we supposed to be here? This was not in our aims. And they have to kind of reshape the season. I think a lot of people at Sunderland would have been told, start of the season, 40 points, 40 points, 40 points, survival. That's all that matters. And they're cruising to it. And then you've got to recalibrate. Well, are we talking top half? Are we talking Europe? Or what are we talking here? And I think you're seeing that a bit with Sunderland now, that players are now being... They almost have expectation on them as opposed to everything they do is a surprise. And some have really flourished, like Brian Brobby in recent weeks, and others have struggled with that, as we saw with the fullbacks last week against West Ham. People like Luke O'Nien and Ronaldo were awful last week. Ronaldo should have been sent off in the first half against West Ham and was very lucky to get subbed before he was sent off. So, look, I think that Sunderland, understandably, aren't going to be reinvesting much in the January transfer window. They're more than safe. They're already thinking about next season. And I think 𝐿𝐴𝐺𝐸, if he's fit, it'll be good for 𝐿𝐴𝐺𝐸 to play because it means he won't be fighting a fan this week, which will make a nice change of pace for him. What a wally. So, look, I think the home form has been good. I think 𝐵𝐺𝐸, all told, has been great, and I think they're a tough team to beat. I think it's a good opponent as well. Look, Burnley, I say this to you every week, and I'll say it to you every week, probably until they go down in 15 weeks' time. Well coached, good team. They know how to stay in games, but winning games in the Premier League comes down to quality, comes down to that moment, comes down to how much money you put into your striker, who's in form. And maybe Marcus Edwards, you could say, has found a little bit of form, but Jaden Anthony's not done it. Broyer's not done it. 𝐿𝐴𝐺𝐸 had some moments. Moving to 3 at the back, a bit like Leeds, has helped them to a degree, but they just don't win games. Good run of draws. Like, it's impressive to draw against Man U and Tottenham and Liverpool, no doubt about it. And I think they're going to give Sunderland a really, really good game here. And I don't discount the draw. I think there's a possibility this could be a draw at 3.8. That's absolutely doable. But for me, I would look at Sunderland at home with the form they've had this season. 5 draws, 6 victories, no defeats. Sunderland double chance, Sunderland or draw. I would take Sunderland at 1.7. Sunderland win to 0 at 2.75. A 1-0, 2-0, 3-0 comes in at double your money. But look at double chance here. Draw or Sunderland, I think there's no chance of a Burnley win. That's the only thing I discount.
Sunderland are unbeaten at home. Burnley have won once away. So Sunderland for me, indeed.
Yeah.
Another reason to back Sunderland here. Well, Tom, this is it. Remember, guys, we have our tipster competitions going on. As always, your Premier League one for you, completely free to participate and the chance to win some cash money. There you go. And also check out Rivals, where you can create your own tipster competition. Tom, let's try safe bet.
Tricky this week. There's a few that you could have gone for, but I am going to go for Manchester United as a safe bet to win at home against Fulham. That's 1.57.
And the ACCA?
3-team ACCA this week. Man United against Fulham. Arsenal to win at Leeds. And Aston Villa to win at home against Brentford. These feel like likely winners. 4.7. Really good odds.
Oh, yeah. But you can go also for the bold one and try the underdogs and make some more money.
West Ham, Burnley and Wolves to win. Does that pay my mortgage?
And Tottenham.
Oh, yes, as well, yeah. 2 mortgages.
Thank you, Tom. See you next week. Bye-bye.